He said newborn babies to cream cheese. He compared babies to the cream cheese.
I used to think that the list was some billionaires, celebrities, and politicians who children, but it turns out it's so much more than that. A ritualistic sacrifice.
But I do want to tell you this. I think that there are a lot of you out there who look at some of the stuff in the Epstein file releases and you say, there's no way this happened. This is not a real thing. This is a figment of someone's imagination, but I want to tell you, that stuff does happen.
I have never been overwhelmed like I am, to a point, by the way, that I feel like stuff are crawling under my skin. Sick to my stomach. And by the way, guys, all we are looking at is the documents of the things that went on and happened at that island. And by the way, with possibility of an empire still running, and this is still going on. Brace yourself, okay? I promise you, some of these things you can't stomach. Forgive me for scratching myself. You're like, I am not like, the things that have just been released. Every level does not prepare you at all for what is about to come. Because when you think, oh, this was terrible, this was something else comes and tells you, you overreacted on that one. On the millions of documents that have been uncovered and released by the Orange administration, forgive me again, I feel like stuff is crawling on my skin because this is like, too much anyway. So, there's a lot of things that you're going to hear from the different people that read these documents. And if you have the time for it, and you're strong, you can go through it, or sit and watch a little bit. I'll come back to talk about it. Like and share. Yeah.
Babies were and eaten. Young girls were forcefully impregnated and forced to give birth to Jeffrey's children as part of a crazy eugenics scheme. There are victims buried on Donald Trump's golf course. Trump, Bill Clinton, and Bill Gates were all involved. Elon Musk was begging to go to those parties, and I'm sure I got the chance to attend one at some point. If this is what the DOJ was willing to release, and there's millions of more files that haven't been released, just imagine what is not being told. The allegations within these files are some of the most heinous, horrendous things a human being could possibly do. And they are committed by the most powerful and protected people within our society. And I could not give less of a did or did not do what. They were all in on it. They all knew about it. They were complicit, regardless of who did what. And they're protected. They're protected. There's a sickness, a vile sickness in our country and our democracy, and there needs to be change and accountability.
The Epstein files just keep getting stranger. In these emails, he discusses giving people supernatural abilities through psychological stress, cloning people, and even designer babies, whatever that's supposed to mean. Let's start at the bottom here. This person named Gino Yu emails Epstein. He says, I'm in Paris and was about to write you and it popped up. She's a classic stage 3 in the model. Outlier who is intelligent, was traumatized when she was young, SA, and now gradually coming into her own and becoming self-realized. Starting to develop special abilities. This trip We found a lot more stories like this, though she is more on the extreme side given her biographical history. Epstein responds asking what prompted his email, then this guy goes on to say the caravan trip has been really wonderful in meeting people that are stage 3. These are people who are developing a different perspective of reality and discovering the gifts they have. He goes on to say, I understand that you were not happy with the results of the Cuba conference that you funded, but I feel like the work is very important toward helping people identify and recognize the gifts that they have, which may not be accepted or well understood by society today. He concludes saying new models are also possible, such as the alternative paradigms group are finding their way, new forms of knowing without knowing how one knows. And in this one, somebody named Brian Bishop emailed Epstein saying, attached is the document you requested. It's the use of funds spreadsheet for the designer baby and human cloning company. This gets us out of the self-funded garage biology phase and the first live birth of a human designer baby and possibility of a human clone within 5 years. I pulled these emails directly from the DOJ's website. They are 100% legitimate. This kind of reminds me of government projects like MK Ultra, for example, but they're not the exact same. However, the framework is kind of similar. Trauma, altered states of consciousness, reframing somebody's identity, and pushing the limits of what we think is possible.
He said newborn babies taste like cream cheese. He compared babies to the taste of cream cheese. No matter how many years I research this stuff, I will never be desensitized to it, because what the do you mean? I will never eat cream cheese again. Ever again. And they're not gonna get in trouble for this stuff. I'm gonna go barf.
I'm gonna try and condense a lot of what I read and or saw online regarding the new batch of Epstein files, but it's too much, so I either might make a Substack where I just unload all of it there, or I may just hold it and then return to whatever you guys want me to go deeper into, but here is some of it. Also, this is all alleged as per the Epstein files, and I would recommend you take caution as this is going to get very heavy. We've got the initial 6 pages that were immediately removed after the files dropped that had Trump's name all over them, unredacted. That's the Midas Touch article. Alan Dershowitz is apparently a Mossad agent who tried to ward off U.S. Attorney Acosta from investigating Epstein, saying that Epstein is U.S. intel and Mossad. More assumptions of Epstein being Mossad. Prince Andrew is all over these documents, implicated in a girl. There's also images of him on the floor, fully clothed, with a redacted girl. Ritualistic sacrifice, dismemberment of a George Bush, R-wording people. Elon Musk is all over these, including asking to go to the island. And a recent article came out where Elon Musk effectively confirms that these emails are real because he says you're just misunderstanding them. Chuck Schumer having dinner with Epstein, a limo driver being told by a victim that Trump and Epstein R-worded them, an NYPD detective working on the Epstein case in 2010 concerned that FBI agents were compromised and was afraid for his life. Founder of TMZ was a good friend of Epstein's, House Representative Stacey Plaskett planning to meet Epstein on his island. The right-wing concern that trans people are trying to turn everyone else trans is actually an Epstein thing and not a left-wing ideology. Jay-Z, Pusha T, and Harvey Weinstein with a child. Epstein-funded MIT lab hosted a panel on slots and not the adult kind, the Epstein kind. Far-right Le Pen family implicated as Russian-funded asset. Epstein was indicted by a grand jury for soliciting prostitutes in July of 2006, and 2 months later was awarded by the federal government a signatory VWP carrier status, which allows you to transport passengers to the U.S. without a visa. 4chan Politically Incorrect is a honeypot built at least in part by Epstein, who met with Christopher Poole on varying occasions. Tony Blair blocking famous names, including his own cabinet members, from being in the investigations. Epstein with Pope John Paul II, as well as living with Pope John Paul II in the Vatican for some time. And Epstein was helping Russia blackmail Trump because Trump was compromised by Russia. And finally, as of February 20th, 2025, a victim of Epstein said that the trafficking ring is still running and being funded. As a reminder, I still have a lot more on this list, and this is also what's only been found in the past couple of days. So if you want this in a Substack, or you want a part 2, or you want me to go deeper into stuff, just let me know.
So 3.5 million pages of Epstein files dropped today. I have been going through them for hours. I'm not done. No one is done. This is going to take weeks, but I need to tell you what I'm finding so far because this is significant. I'm Eliza Orland's career public defender for 15 years in Manhattan. And so I've seen a lot, but this is different. And so I want to start with a trigger warning. And you know this if you've been following the Epstein Files coverage, whether it's mine or anyone else's, this stuff is heavy. So please be gentle with yourself, because reading through this material day after day, trying to verify things, trying to report it accurately, trying not to sensationalize it, but also not minimize it, it is a lot. It's a lot. Okay, so let me walk you through what I'm finding. First of all, let's talk about Elon Musk. Musk has said publicly multiple times that Epstein tried to repeatedly get me to visit his island and I refused. He posted that on X, direct quote. And when Forbes put out an article saying that Elon Musk planned a trip to Epstein's private island, newly released documents show, Elon tweeted back, "This is false." Well, the new batch of emails tells a very different story. In November 2012, years after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted and adjudicated a sender, Epstein asks how many people Musk is bringing for the helicopter to the island. Musk responds, "Probably just Tallulah and me. What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?" The wildest party on a registered sender's island. 1 month later, Christmas Day 2012, Musk emails Epstein again. "Do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of sanity this year, and so once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's, sick, or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for." Elon Musk is not refusing anything. He's asking for more. He's saying the island isn't wild enough, that he doesn't want a peaceful experience. He's actively pursuing Jeffrey Epstein for parties over multiple months. Then fast forward to February 2013. Epstein emails the CEO of Activision Blizzard, "The girls and I are going to see Elon Musk at SpaceX tomorrow." The girls. His assistant confirms it. Jeffrey Epstein and 3 of his assistants are in California and going to visit SpaceX at 1 o'clock today. We know what the girls meant. We know what Jeffrey Epstein's assistants were. Then, December 2013, a full year later, Musk is still at it. "We'll be in the BVI St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit?" Epstein, "I will send heli for you. Always space for you." So when Elon Musk tells you he refused Epstein's invitation, well, we have the receipts now. 2 years of emails, him asking for parties, him asking for the wildest night, Epstein sending helicopters. He wasn't refusing anything. Then there's Donald Trump, of course. An FBI interview from today's release, a 302, describes how Ghislaine Maxwell operated at parties. A victim tells the FBI that Maxwell brought her to a party in New York and presented her to Donald Trump. Her word, presented, like merchandise. They talked for about 20 minutes. The victim was then invited to Mar-a-Lago, where Trump personally gave her a tour with Epstein and Maxwell present. The FBI report says, quote, "Nothing happened between the victim and Trump." But here's what else it says. Maxwell made clear to the victim that she was available. Maxwell said things like, "Oh, I think he likes you. Aren't you lucky? This is great." And, "Oh, he'll like this, doesn't like that." The report says it was, quote, "set up very much like how Maxwell introduced the victim to Epstein. The same playbook, the same presentation at Mar-a-Lago." Maxwell also introduced this same victim to other men at these events. Their names? Redacted. Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, I need to warn you again, because what I'm about to describe in these FBI documents released today is a victim's account of what happened to her, and it's horrific. A victim who was 16 years old describes how Epstein's assistant Sarah would call her every time Epstein was in Palm Beach and schedule appointments for her visit. Each time, she says, something new was introduced. Each time, additional monies were produced and offered to get her to comply. She describes being forced to perform acts with Epstein and another woman. She says Epstein would photograph them and proudly display the photographs within the home. And then she describes what happened during one massage. She says Epstein grabbed her, turned her over onto her stomach on the massage table, and, quoting from the document, forcibly inserted his. She says her head was being held against the table. She screamed no, and Epstein stopped. Afterward, he apologized and he paid her $1,000. She said he still continued to display the photographs of her throughout the house. This is who Jeffrey Epstein was. Not a socialite, not a financier, of violent rape paid children after assaulting them and then hung their pictures on his walls. Okay, so let's talk about what's still hidden though. The DOJ identified over 6 million pages covered by the EpsteinFiles Transparency Act. They've released 3.5 million to this point, barely half. And here's what's happening. Survivors' names are appearing unredacted in these documents. Their information is being exposed. Meanwhile, the powerful men who abused them, still redacted behind black bars. There's an FBI chart from 5 days after Epstein's death listing 8 co-conspirators. Only 2 faces are visible, Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel. 6 are still redacted. 6 co-conspirators still protected. Survivors released a statement today. Quote, "This is being sold as transparency, but what it actually does is expose survivors. Once again, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed, while the men who abused us remain hidden and protected. They're protecting the wrong people." Okay, well, that's what I have so far. There's a lot more coming. Please be gentle with yourselves. This material is brutal. If you need to step away, step away. And I could use some of that grace too, because I'm sitting here alone reading about children being and trying to figure out how to tell you about it accurately. And it's hard. So be kind to yourselves and kind to the people who are doing this work. More soon. Please make sure you're following for updates.
I used to think that the list was some billionaires, celebrities, and politicians who essay children, but it turns out it's so much more than that. Torture, ritualistic sacrifice, cannibalism. So many of these people that went on and on about these conspiracy theories of a secret cabal doing all this, well, they were right. Except they were pointing the finger in the wrong direction, because they voted these very people to positions of power. Both Epstein and Maxwell had strong ties to Israel. Epstein trapped the rich and the powerful, and now everyone in positions of power is pro-Israel. Everyone who 10 years ago, 15 years ago did not play the game is now playing the game. Remember, they seized 10 terabytes. So the Epstein files you see are not the files. The real files are videos. They've been working towards this for decades.
So how are you watching the Epstein topic unfold around the world? Well, for me, the one thing that I noticed is the eerie silence about the fact that it is all a heinous illegitimate coup against the West. As we all know, it is an easy operation to take over Western governments by entrapping their leaders in depraved, catching those sick acts on video, and then blackmailing the leaders to do anything that Israel demands of them, or else the images would be made public. However, many who are discussing the topic fail to make the connection that today, even after Epstein's death, people are losing their freedoms and their rights in Europe and America today because of him. The increasing Israeli control of Western governments that we are all seeing today, it's Epstein's work. All the denial by the governments of Europe and America, the denial of starvation and the refusal to do anything to stop in fact, even sending even more bombs to exterminate the Palestinian people, arresting and deporting peaceful protesters in their own cities. All of this weird behavior is the direct product of Epstein's operation. Western leaders are supporting Israel under duress just so that they are not made public. Netanyahu probably watching to see what effect the release of the Epstein files is having on Israel's control over America and Europe. Clearly, he is not in any trouble so far because not only the names of the abusers are still redacted, but also everyone is focusing on everything else. But the country that is the mastermind behind this actual is coup d'etat conducted by one man on a nation. That's Jeffrey Epstein. If any other country had conducted such an operation against America, you would hear national security alarms everywhere. Diplomatic ties would be cut with that nation. And there would be war plans made and counterintelligence operations being conducted right now for the country, for America, to regain full sovereignty of its government, its institutions, and its democracy. The lukewarm concern shows how much America's national security apparatus has collapsed under Epstein's operation. To all those Americans complaining about a foreign country controlling America, that is exactly what Epstein was doing. Israel's complete takeover of America. Only one country in the world, namely, uses pedophilia and cannibalism of children as a weapon to control foreign countries. American people, you are under attack by Israel wants your country, and Israel is getting away with conducting a coup against your country and installing an dictatorship against you, the American people. The only remaining simple solution at your direct disposal, and I will repeat this as many times as it takes, is the people of America kicking out of public office all these politicians whom you found bowing their heads to Israel. All these people being given free trips to Israel. That is the continuation of Israel's takeover of your country.
Something I haven't talked about here until now is that for the last year and a half, I was a federal grand juror. That means that I went once a month and sat on a grand jury and heard all kinds of cases. Now, of course, I'm still bound not to tell you any specifics about those cases. But I do want to tell you this. I think that there are a lot of you out there who look at some of the stuff in the Epstein file releases and you say, there's no way this happened. This is not a real thing. This is a figment of someone's imagination, but I want to tell you, that stuff does happen. On more than one occasion, when I left the grand jury, I was physically sick from the things that I had to hear while I was there. And there are memories of some of those things that will always be with me. There are people in the world that are this depraved. There are people in the world that hurt children. There are people in the world that are just wired so screwed up or had so much trauma. I don't know what causes these things, but for whatever reason, they are capable. Maybe they're just soulless, and you can do with that information what you want to. But I just want to tell you that these things really do happen. There's nothing that I have read in the Epstein files that is that far-fetched to me.
This picture found in the Epstein files appears to show human meat directly next to turkeys on a cutting board. So you can actually download and scroll through all these photos yourself like I've been doing for the past few days. But at one point recently, I started to see people talking about this image. It is in file EFTA01646032. And you just have to scroll down until you find this. Now, this is a more full version of the photo that's unredacted, and as you can see, it appears to be a naked human or possibly a child with its legs up in the air, its face turned to the side, and it appears to be dead, almost as if it is going to be cannibalized next. So clearly, seeing this photo amidst other photos from Epstein's estate, like photos depicting CSAM and perpetrators, that's incredibly disturbing, right? Well, as you can see, this image is attributed to someone named Harold Seward. And as it turns out, Harold is a kind of macabre artist who has created all sorts of pieces of art that really push the boundaries. And he has been working in those spaces for years, for decades now, creating really strange art that is, to some extremely tasteless. And yes, I know a lot of people have been thinking that that photo might show a form of cannibalism or something like that occurring in the Epstein circle. But it's really just a piece of art created by Harold, at least to our knowledge. But to me, regardless, that begs an even bigger question. Why is this art sandwiched amongst CSAM? Why is this photograph, this extremely creepy photograph showing what looks to be the body of a child that is completely on a cutting board? Why is that image in the Epstein files at all? If you actually scroll through this section of the files, you will see it's pictures of victims with perpetrators, lots of sex photos, and then this is just randomly in there. So did Epstein have this image in his files because he was participating in something like this? Did he have a penchant for extremely disturbing and bizarre art? I don't really know, and I don't know what to tell you guys because there are no answers here, especially since there's no context provided. Can bring a little baby back for you or two. Boys or girls, so Madonna. We'll email when we get to Amsterdam. That is a real email from the recent Epstein Files releases. And if you want to take a screenshot or pause this and look, this is the email itself. It was sent by a woman named Penny Siegel to Jeffrey Epstein's email account in 2009. with the subject Kenya. And I don't know what this means. I don't know if this woman was talking about actually smuggling babies out of Kenya to be given to Jeffrey Epstein. If she was talking about trafficking children, I don't know. But I've heard stories like this before. For example, in the Marc Dutroux story, Marc Dutroux is basically the Jeffrey Epstein of Belgium. There were allegations from victim witnesses that they actually had baby farms, aka locations, warehouses, where mothers were literally chained up and kept in these warehouses, safe houses, greenhouses, whatever they were, and they were forced to stay there until they gave birth. The kids were then sold off to various pedophile organizations, and the mothers were then raped and impregnated, and the thing just continued on and on. So this is not something new, and some of these allegations that we've seen in the last few days have been incredibly disturbing. You probably know this already. I mean, I covered this yesterday. We talked about somebody who wrote into the FBI and claimed that they saw babies getting their intestines cut out, the feces eaten from their intestines on a private boat party. And I'm not saying I endorse all of these claims and I believe all of these claims, but I think that it's important to note that there's a historic trend of these claims being made surrounding these sorts of rings. This is not new. We are still just scratching the surface of how dark Epstein really was. And they're never, ever going to reveal the full truth about it. That is something I can promise and guarantee you right now. But I'm going to keep on digging and keep asking questions. Now, it's interesting, actually. I'm just connecting this now. This email actually talks about getting to Amsterdam with the babies. That's where Marc Dutroux's victims claimed the baby factories were essentially being ran out of. It was in Amsterdam. So let me know your thoughts on all this below. I'm very curious to see what you guys think of all.
How is everybody doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much to all of you that support me. Come back, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Those that are kind to me, thank you so very much. And we are here regardless of how tough it is. You know, we have to talk about it, right? At this point, me, Gracie, this is the point where if I was, there, at this point, maybe that's why I am not there. Because if I was there, Lord knows, there are some people that would be already. Lord knows that's why I didn't become a lawyer. Because he knew that I was here for a way more greater call and purpose than putting those people on. Because as I think growing up, that was always my dream. Trust me, I did not give up on it just because I can't. No, I decided to let that go because it was going to make me, I don't know, a monster for wanting justice. Yeah, obviously. In pursuit of justice, I would be a monster. Because there's no way on God's green planet we are looking at all these, and we are looking at documents, mind you. There are videos too. And I know they probably won't produce that. And that for that very reason, I just feel like it's not funny, but because of how deep this is, because of how disgusting this is, you have to laugh. We at least knew the celebrities and everybody that is being mentioned in here, specifically the celebrities and all of that. I know that probably quite a number of people are shocked. They're like, oh my God, with the accountability, why don't we already throw them there and all of that? This is not the first time you're hearing about the celebrities being involved in shadiest and rituals. In I think around 2009 and 10, as a kid, just beginning my high school, and all these conspiracies about the same people that are appearing in these documents were out there. And the lovers of these celebrities are like, there's no way. But even when as a kid, I knew it's true. I knew it's true. But these are just the little tiny fishes. They are the silver fishes. There's a hierarchy. All this worldly government and whatever and everything, the leadership that you all are looking at, you're looking at a beast system. Those celebrities were being shielded and protected by someone. But like scripture said that everything that was done in the dark will be out. It will be revealed. Nothing will be left unturned. No stone. That's why we are seeing what we are seeing. And it's just so hard to fathom all the things that went down. And speaking about it, also knowing that some of these things are actually still happening, from auctioning of young kids to literally kidnapping to the rituals that had to be performed. I think it just goes to tell you how far people can go to obtain power and consolidate it. Because at the core of it, when you ask yourself, these things are demonic and you feel it, your mind, your brain, and your heart is not lying to you at all, okay? What had happened to these people? Were they under the influence? When we look at Elon, he's literally inviting himself when he denied. It's like I've never been invited. Where you invited yourself over and over again. So you ask, were these people insane? And no, they were not. But that's how far they had to go to partake in those rituals so that they stay powerful and strong. This is an eye-opener to make you realize that even the conspiracies that a lot of people used to believe, or some of the conspiracies that people used to be like, that's a conspiracy, are not. That's not conspiracies. It's darkness written all over it. These people are doing it. The difference is the people that are blaming the downfall of the United States of embarrassment on the immigrants. They are the ones that are all over these files, everywhere. Okay? They are everywhere. It is a bunch of wealthy people that have made money, but they are so greedy that they want to make more. And so, I think in my country, I told you, we say omgaga simuntu, that a wealthy man is not human. And it always is how far they can go, how extreme they can go. Forgive me, but how far they can go to do things that you will hear and your skin crawls, literally like, yeah. And these people do them. It's not the immigrants. that performed rituals on babies. It's not. I'm not saying that immigrants are perfect, they don't commit crimes. It is big, rich, white men and women. That are the exact downfall of the United States of embarrassment. They are the real criminals. They are the real people that are running fraudulent whatever's schemes. They are the ones. And for Orange to even come out and deny, it's like, Jeff, you knew him. You were everywhere. Even his department, they're like, man, you are everywhere. You can't get rid of your name everywhere. Even his pictures being redacted, they are now put in, because his appearance, like, Prince Andrew lost his whatever, royal titles. What is going to happen to DT? What's going to happen to all these people that are literally everywhere? Even if we know for sure that in some instances, a lot of these people are losing their jobs. There are those that are being forced to resign. There are those that are losing their jobs, being fired because of their, forgive me, because literally, like, my skin is itching, and it's just because of this whole thing, okay? But even if we know there are those that are losing, but what about? Makes sense now why Stephen Bannon was like, if we lose the midterms, now you better get worried. You better be worried. Because with this, he is thinking of a destruction. He sure is. And it might be he wants to hijack the control over election. Who has that? It's supposed to be the states. Now he wants to take over that.
We have breaking news this evening. Reuters has confirmed the United States has boots on the ground in Nigeria.
What makes me weak? Like, even when you're hopeful and you're like, justice, what, da. Guys, if you see me losing energy, I am emotionally and spiritually. And I think we should not even go so far, okay? But I'm going to say what I wanted to say. That what makes me weak is the fact that the same people that are supposed to be calling accountability, put them on the spot. They were the ringleaders. And even those that are not mentioned, the so-called Bidens, the so-called Obamas, and the people that are not really like outed yet, even if this administration goes, do you believe that these dragons, monsters, serpents will be held accountable? Or, as always, we go back to bargaining with a higher power of, please, Lord, deal with it. And I don't even want you to think that I don't make prayers like that, because I do. People were talking about kids' bodies. Some things are not better left unsaid. But do we have to always go to bargain with a higher power and be like, please, Lord, deal with it? Because I tell you, they will be dealt with to the measure of what they did. But as a human, I would have loved to see that measure being shaken up altogether and again, these are documents, these are writings. All the people that you've heard there in there, the things they witnessed. Oh my God, Joe. I'm going to emphasize again. This is evil. And this is darkness. You, if you are a believer, I don't want you to forget that we are in the period where the reign of the devil is literally kind of now, like it's very obvious that there is something that is being unleashed onto the world. And for everybody that watches these stories, it's to condition you to be like, those things are done. Don't ever normalize it. Because it is darkness. Because it is demonic. Because this is the evil reign. And that's throwing these things into your eyes. Also to let you know that you can't do anything. Make you feel like you're powerless. But I want to remind you that you're not powerless. For seeing these things for what it is, for calling out these things for what they are, you're not powerless. That's your power. That's your strength. And the enemy, as much as he knows that he is damned for eternity, he does not want to be reminded. That's why you're not weak, because you also have stuff against him. You have stuff against all these people. Okay? Even if they have power, it does not last. It does not. But that's so far what I came across, and I wanted to report on that and bring some of the revelations that a lot of people made when they were going through all these documents, and you to stay strong. And to the victims, I think my prayer above everything else is to you or for you, because you're the one that deserve it, having gone through all this terror under this demonic rule and whatever. But I think I'm done, I'm praying for everybody. And again, that empire too will collapse. Yeah, love you. See you later. Till then, my name is Chrissy, and bye.